Hi there, this is Miss Niebling, and you are about to learn another smiley face trick. Remember that smiley face tricks are tools that good writers use in their writing to make their readers smile. Today you're going to learn the 7th smiley face trick, which is called Hyphenated Modifier. So make sure that you write that as your title in your notes as you copy down this next slide. The definition of a hyphenated modifier is a phrase of words connected by hyphens that describes a noun. Now, this is my students' favorite smiley face trick every year, and part of that is because the hyphenated modifiers help your readers to be able to really get what you're saying. It stands out to people, and we take notice of hyphenated modifiers because it's structured in a different way than most sentences. It helps us to take notice of your original idea, and it gives you a unique style and a way to show your personality a little bit in your writing. Now, there's some things you got to know before I talk to you about what a hyphenated modifier is and show you some examples. And that takes us back to creating a good foundation with parts of speech. Remember that a noun is a person, place, thing, or idea. Now, it's important to know what a noun is because we are going to be using hyphenated modifiers to describe those nouns. So let's look at this sentence. I froze in my seat when Miss Niebling gave me one of her looks. Now, there's several nouns in this sentence, but the important one that I want you to see right now is looks. Looks is a thing. Now, the way it's used in this sentence, it's not very descriptive. We need to be able to know what kind of look Miss Niebling gave her student. So, this is where an adjective comes in. What's an adjective, you ask? Well, an adjective is a word that describes a noun or a pronoun. So now look and see how I described the kind of look that I gave my student. I froze in my seat when Miss Niebling gave me one of her stern looks. So now we know what kind of look I gave. I gave a stern look. However, there's some times in your writing where using an adjective like that just doesn't seem to do the trick. It's not as descriptive, it's not as fun, it's not as unique. When you're trying to come up with a way to describe a look, you want to be original. That's where hyphenated modifier comes in. Remember that a hyphenated modifier is a phrase of words connected by hyphens that describes a noun. So now let's look at this sentence. I replaced an adjective with a hyphenated modifier. I froze in my seat when Miss Niebling gave me one of her I know what you are up to and I don't like it looks. So I took this whole phrase, I know what you're up to and I don't like it, and I used that phrase to describe the kind of look that I am giving my student. I took an adjective out and replaced it with a hyphenated modifier. Now, a hyphenated modifier, let's just break down what that means. Hyphenated just means that you're using hyphens. Now, hyphens have multiple jobs, but usually hyphens are used to either link words or phrases together. Now, a modifier is a fancy word for a word that describes something. So when you put it all together, a hyphenated modifier is just describing something using hyphens. So this whole red phrase, I know what you're up to and I don't like it, is the hyphenated modifier that describes the noun. So let's look at some more examples. I went from kind of calm to being in that stand in one place with spit drilling down the front of your shirt kind of scared. That whole red hyphenated modifier describes what kind of scared that person was. After seeing me with him, my best friend gave me the why would you want to go with him look. But I knew this day would turn into the normal, boring, I wish I was with my friends instead of with these old people Thanksgiving. Now, one thing I want to point out to you about these examples is look at the very end. Whenever you finish your hyphenated modifier, you don't need to put an extra hyphen between the hyphenated modifier and the noun that it describes. The noun should stand on its own. It doesn't need to be linked to the hyphenated modifier. Here's some more examples. I would never get into this is going on your permanent record trouble. She gave me that get out of my way or there's going to be trouble kind of glare that had me running in the other direction. Even though she has been paralyzed from the waist down for 20 years, my grandma still has a "don't tell me I can't do it because I can" attitude. My eat whatever you see sister is always shoving food in her face. I want to be that famous, always gets the perfect shot photographer. Okay, so now there's a couple more things you need to know now that you understand what a hyphenated modifier is. A hyphenated modifier should always be a complete thought. That means that it could almost be made into a sentence. The corners of her mouth felt like they were carving their way through drying cement as she forced a "that's so great, I couldn't be happier for you if I tried" smile across her face. What's in red is a complete thought, and therefore it's perfect to use to describe the kind of smile that went across her face. Also, a hyphenated modifier should not just link random words together. You would never want to write something like, "I had never seen such a happy, cheerful, joyful person before." That's not a hyphenated modifier. Happy, cheerful, and joyful are three adjectives that are just linked together by hyphens. That's not a hyphenated modifier. It's not a complete thought. Alright, now it's your turn. I want you to choose number 1 or number 2 or number 3, and I want you to create your own hyphenated modifier to fill in the blank. So write out the whole sentence, but this time put in your hyphenated modifier. So if Mom and Dad went in the back room for one of their talks, what kind of a talk was it? If she put her feet into the what kind of shoes? And what kind of look did the dog have on its face? When you're finished writing this down into your spiral, you are done for the day and you can move on. Thanks for listening, guys.